2, 1. Boom. We're live. Hello, everybody. First episode ever of Finance Junkies or Money Junkies. Leave it in the comments which name you like better. I like finance.
TBD.
Money Junkies for me.
All right, so
I like finance.
why don't you explain why you like Finance Junkies?
I think Finance Junkies just sounds cool. Money Junkies is like money versus finance. That name, that word, it just sounds cooler.
I want to get down to the people's level. Right?
like if you think about it, a junkie on the street.
Right. You'd rather be
more of a
finance
money junkie. Right. They wouldn't say, "Excuse me, sir. Do you have any finance you can part with me? It's my habit."
It is a bit of an oxymoron to use like a technical term within the junkie.
Right.
Well, so let me start off with Chris, because this is Chris's idea to get us all here, and we instantly realized this would be a decent combination. So, Chris, what inspired you for this idea, and why do you think we all agreed to become the Money Junkies?
Well, I figured, you know what? I have a lot of opinions when it comes to some of the stocks that these guys have been putting out, especially Enphase. And so we've always had this healthy debate in their Discord, which I love doing because it's one of those things that, like, if you can't argue against a point or for a point, then really you have really no good thesis. So I figure, you know what, with all four of us here, we can actually talk about some of these things that we all may agree on, disagree on, you know, and each one of us brings like a different element to the table. So I think the way that I would probably present this is, like, you know how like on Sundays you have like Sports Center with like Stephen A and everyone like just talking about things. I think this would be a great time to kind of talk about. I think we are at a generational opportunity of things hopefully recovering in the next 10 years. And I kind of want to be on the forefront of that, where we're actively commenting and bringing our own personal experiences. You know, each one of us has different things going on in their life and experiences with investing over the course of the last 10, 20 the last 2 years. So I figured we all, you know, could get together and see where this goes.
And
Okay.
I just want to point out, everybody's commenting on Chris's camera, and the reason he has such a shitty camera is because he didn't invest in Enphase. I just want to make that clear.
or it's because Chris is still at work.
That's what you get for your put options.
Chris, did you buy put options on Enphase?
Just check out my setup. I just want you to say what Enphase has bought, okay?
No, it's whatever, dude. Whatever. I'll leave it to you guys.
Carlos ended up buying a specific car with his Enphase money, right?
That's what Enphase bought me.
Look at
Well,
that.
Tesla.
Very nice.
Tesla.
Yeah,
Look at that.
I got the X Plaid, man.
I could have doubled my money in March when Vitaly told me to buy that motherfucker at 140. And I was like, solar panels? What the fuck is solar panels? What is that?
Bro, I
like,
still
no,
believe.
No, Vitaly was like, it's the inverter. I was like, you sound like an idiot. Like, what are you talking about? Invert?
Idiot.
He's like, nerd.
And then now I'm just like, well, Palantir's down.
But I mean, you know what it is? You're not from the like our generation. Nerds were like, right? But weren't they like? They were ridiculed in school. They were made fun of. Now they run the world.
Yeah.
And I am a nerd. That's the crazy thing. I am a nerd. It's just like I didn't get the inverter thing. I didn't care too much about it. And so, you know,
I'm still not sold on it, by the way. Like the whole micro inverter thing, like I don't see where other companies can't just make micro.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get into Elon.
Are we really going down this route?
We're gonna get into
really?
Elon. We're gonna get into Elon Apple, but let's do the first 15 minutes on Enphase. Chris, go ahead. Why don't you get them?
Okay, so here's the thing. I've seen this before.
You know what you do before you start? Yeah, before you start, should we have a shot clock for everybody so everybody gets equal time? Because Chris is going to monopolize this.
Okay,
and
okay.
Take
So
10 minutes, and then we only get like 30 seconds to answer.
We're gonna give everyone 3 minutes to start, and then we'll let it go. So Chris, you got 3 minutes.
Shot
Go ahead.
clock on the screen.
Basically, a micro inverter is like a little box that they put behind the solar panels. They put one on each solar panel to basically convert DC power, which is what the sun generates using the photovoltaic cell, converts it to alternating current, which is what we use at home, and just passes it along. The thing is, it's not anything super special. Like, I get it. It's like a brand new thing when it came out. They have a lot of market share, but at the same time, there are other companies that make micro inverters.
Okay, okay, go ahead. Who are they?
Yeah. Huh?
Go ahead. Who are they?
I don't know. What are they called?
Solar Edge.
No, I think Solar Edge.
They don't make
Generac.
microinverters.
Okay, never mind. I was just pulling that out my ass.
Generac doesn't make
Generac.
microinverters. Keep going.
Yeah. So there are other companies. There are like Chinese companies that make microinverters.
Well, my point is, if you can't even bring up the competition, then you have a very weak case right off the bat, because you have to give at least some actual facts to back up your
But no,
your
that's what I'm saying.
point.
That this is relatively a new sector, a new thing. So everyone right now is like, oh my God, this is going to be the next big thing. So right now, there's probably a lot of companies just figuring out how to get their supply chains together, manufacture more of these, and competition is going to eventually make its way there. And then, like I said, it's going to have to. Enphase is going to have to figure out what to do. Right now, I think solar is just like the year 2012. We're in another bubble. Okay, I think that everyone and their
You
mother
think
is like, oh my
solar's
God,
in a bubble?
yeah,
Solar's
I
in
think
oh
so.
my God,
Okay,
Chris.
just to squash it, I think the piece that you're forgetting here is like you're thinking that Enphase's inverters are like Apple making iPhones, right? Like somebody else can come along and make an iPhone that a bunch of people like. What you're not understanding is that Enphase's customers are not the end user, not the person that buys the solar. They are the solar installers. They're the companies that install the systems. Now, I worked as an alarm installer and security camera installer, and I did in like the 5 years that I worked there, we never changed companies. Why? Because we know those systems. We know how to install them. We have great rapport with the company. If there's any service, if there's any issue, we can get there and we can troubleshoot. So even if the technology is better, right? Better, supposedly, it doesn't fit well with our business model, right? I want to be able to send a guy out and he has one system that he knows. He knows it really well. And if you have great rapport with that company, the end customer that installs the solar will never even know that that product is on the roof. So maybe that piece of information will change your mind, or at least give you at least allow that to inform why it is such a moat. Because if all of the solar installers, and Vitaly and I have interviewed several solar installers, all of them, and we've crossed continents. We talked to the main guy in Australia and several people in the US. All of them are like the consensus is that Enphase's microinverters are the best. And the reason is because they not only have the best performance, but they also fail the least. Now, every time you got to send somebody to fix a system, that costs you money as an installer, even though Enphase reimburses you. The point is you want to install it and you never want to see them again. Yeah. Right?
Before Chris answers, there's two things that he could be right about. One thing, and we've talked on our Discord back and forth. The stock price is different than the company. Do you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, I do agree with that.
So the stock price right now is shots to the moon, and I'm glad I was a participant since $20. Let me point that out. We've been talking on our channel about this stock since it was $20.
$20
during the 2020 crash. We said to buy, basically, and if you listened, you did well. Okay, that's all I want to say.
You got a Tesla.
You got a Tesla. If you didn't listen, you didn't get a Tesla. But look, the stock price could be too high. I actually agree with you there that in the short term, absolutely, it can go down in half. Absolutely. But solar is not a fad. Like, I think your bear case is that this is just a fad that's going to go away. You don't see that the next decade is basically all electric vehicles, all solar. Can you respond to something like that?
No, I would say that the pricing power of using grid is still going to outcompete solar, unless that there is all this local support, whether it's government subsidies and stuff like that. The minute you move those away, I don't think you would have nearly the market for it. And same thing with the competition from the energy side. Like right now, energy is expensive because of all this Russia stuff that's going on. But the minute that stuff gets resolved, it's like, okay, let's go back to using grid power again. The other thing is the financing costs of some of these solar installations. Like I have seen a ton of people regret getting solar because the cost of solar ownership is through the roof. The amount of maintenance that you have to do versus just flipping a light switch and getting it through that. The other thing is like, look at Tesla Solar. They gave up on that. Why? Like what is the reason for that? And
wait, before you go, that's actually false. They're pausing them. They're pausing the installs now to take advantage of the incentives that kick in at the beginning of the year. So it's not that they've abandoned solar. They're just pausing it to take advantage of the incentives that take place.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know.
So
that.
I want to answer your thing before you continue. I was trying to look up the statistic, and maybe we can look this up because I heard it recently. Even Texas, its wind and solar deployment is over 25%, just wind and solar in Texas, and they hate solar, by the way. No one is moving to solar because it's more expensive. That's not what's happening here. What's happening is that gas, oil, those things are becoming more expensive, and nuclear too. Obviously, that's very expensive. So if those things continue to be harder either to get out of the ground, right? Because there's a big difference, and there's a guy Tony Seba. You guys should watch his videos. If nobody's seen it, maybe Amit could put some links to Tony Seba's videos. But basically, the problem is that you need to go dig and find oil. Even if you found a bunch of reserves, you still got to keep digging for it. The difference with solar is that it's manufacturable energy. It means you could make it in a factory now. Anything you can make in a factory, this is a known fact, drops in price over time. So when you talk about solar today, yeah, okay, maybe it is more expensive. And I went for it. It's actually not for me. I could go into all the math, but it's not for me. But let's say it is more expensive. Over the next decade, the solar curve is straight down. The EV curve straight down with batteries. I know you've been paying attention to this. I can't be talking to the... So if you've been paying attention to this, and energy in terms of oil and gas, even if they stay level, I mean, it's a no-brainer. What's gonna happen? Not if it's gonna happen. What is gonna happen is that solar will take over and dominate. I'm not saying everything. I'm not saying 100%. I'm not one of those idiots. It's basically going from 4%, 3% currently to, let's say, 40%, 50%. Right. That is a massive upside. And
right.
So what do you got to say to all that, basically?
Well, I would just say once again that there's probably some level of competition that's going to come in the market if it ends up becoming such a like ubiquitous thing. Like right now, Tesla being the market leader where it is, doesn't, like, a lot of companies are behind, but eventually they're going to catch up, in which case they'll be competing against it. Now, Enphase can be one of these entrenched companies that has such a monopolistic hold over the entire industry that they'll be able to kind of maintain that dominance. But you guys just said before, like, I think right now, what is the warranty on the thing? 25 years warranty on a microinverter from Enphase, right? That is a huge life cycle cost that you're not going to have repeat customers. At least with cars, like every 5, maybe even 7 years, you're going to switch up a car. With a microinverter, you know, if everything works well, it's 25 years of that. Not to mention, not all the sites that people are going to utilize are
I think you're wrong
for solar generation. Yeah.
I mean, respond. Go ahead. You want to respond to
well,
that?
okay. There's something else to consider.
2 minutes, then we got to move on.
I think in the same way that the pandemic showed us certain vulnerabilities as a nation, I think it's clear now with this whole Russia thing that having energy independence is actually a matter of national security at this point, right? So not being dependent on foreign providers of energy for a country is actually super important. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these subsidies switch over, right? And also, if you have everybody has their own solar panels, you don't have a single point of failure in your grid, right? So that's also, because that happens. I mean, people hack the grid and try to take out the power. So I think that you're looking at it as a bunch of people putting solar panels on their roof, but energy it actually has a lot of touch points. The other thing I'll say is you're like, oh, somebody can come along and make a better one. Sure. You know, and some people argue that like the Google Pixel is a better phone, right? But once you have that penetration, it becomes really hard, even with the superior product, to get people to switch over. Because Apple didn't just make a phone. They find ways of monetizing the people once they're in there, you know? And so just like Vitaly was saying, what happens when 10% of all cars are EVs? You need charging stations, you need charging infrastructure, right? What happens in a place like Texas when you have massive power outages? You need backup batteries. So this idea that they're only selling inverters that they don't need, that there's no more upsell, you know, that's how it's not. You're looking at a small piece of it. You got to think the big picture of it.
Carlos, let me respond to his thing saying that, oh, as soon as you sell the inverter, you're done. First of all, even me and Carlos, at this point, when we got our systems, we didn't have as many EVs in the house.
Yeah.
I didn't transition my house to all electric heat. I put in a heat pump recently.
Yeah.
So now I'm back on the grid in terms of using some of that energy, and I don't want to be. So now I got to go back to Enphase, get more panels, or get new inverters that now handle higher power output, basically. So there is a cycle there too. Maybe it's not the same as an iPhone cycle, obviously, but there is a cycle. And we're not talking about the battery business that they're doing. They're going to be selling energy. I think me and you talked about that briefly online. So there's a lot of things that are going on besides these inverters. So I think you have to look at the holistic picture, and it looks like you're looking at very narrow field of view here.
I definitely will do more research on it. And I do like seeing that they're actually diversifying into other parts of the solar market, where they're also doing monitoring stuff, and then on top of it, battery storage. So that's
charging.
Yeah,
EV
I do
charging.
like EV charge. I do like all that, but I'm still not 100% behind it. And one last question, and then we could probably move on to something else. Why are insiders selling at such a breakneck pace?
Once again, the stock price is different
Yeah.
than the actual fundamentals of the company. If the stock
Right.
gets too high, even I want to sell.
Mhm.
And I have sold, by the way, at $300. If you've been following us on Discord, I have sold, and I've told people that, hey, if you need some money, you should take profits right now. It's okay. It's not going to kill you if you don't have all your shares. That's okay too.
You know, just FYI, I was surprised by this because I've never seen Meet Kevin talk about Enphase, but he actually has a pretty decent position in that new ETF that he just came out with. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I
And
did
that was
see that.
one of his top 10 holdings is Enphase.
Yeah, but he
Enphase is
sold out
like-
recently. He sold out like 6-8 months ago before the big run up too. So I don't know. He's
No,
someone.
no. He's it's
He
in
launched
that-
a new
yeah.
ETF today called hashtag PP. It's called the Pricing Power Index. And
PP.
Yeah, he called it PP.
PP.
it's let me show you guys a picture of
Trolling
it real quick.
people. I mean, really?
No, it's Pricing Power Index. That's
I
what
want to
we-
respond to Carlos. Carlos, me, no, the Carlos who's writing to us. We've talked about Enphase before Meet Kevin. Okay, Meet Kevin is a late comer
That's
to this
true,
Enphase
yeah.
game. We were talking about it way before, in fact. All right.
That was one of the
These
first.
these
first stocks
these are
we
the
bought.
top 10 holdings in his ETF. He has Tesla, Apple, the U.S. Treasury, Taiwan Semiconductor, Trade Desk, UDN, Enphase. He has $22,000 of Enphase. Okay, AMD, Lulu, and Nvidia. What do you guys think about this 10 stock lineup, Chris?
I would say, first of all, there's three that I would probably not have, but one is Enphase because you guys know already. Like I'm
Unbelievable.
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical,
Unbelievable.
and it's
Wait,
all-
Chris, it sounds like you're just not listening, or you just don't care. About what
No,
people
no, no,
say.
I'm
You know what? No,
listening,
no.
but-
Here's what. Wait. Here's a question. Here's what
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson does in situations like this. He just asks a simple question. He says, "What is your strongest argument for you feeling the way you feel?" A and B. What would you need to hear to change your mind?
I would probably need the price for the stock to come down significantly because right now it's been ridden up so high.
So you're
So
talking
right
about
now-
stock once again
Okay,
versus
Talking
the
about
company
stock price of the
fundamentals.
company. Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
But does the
that's-
solar penetration thing make sense, or does that still you're like that theory is stupid?
I like the concept of solar. I think that it's promising, but there's two things that I want to. Number one,
I like oxygen, but like I also like.
I like the concept of breathing.
I'm a fan of oxygen.
you can like concepts, but at the same time, does it make does it make
Yeah.
sense in terms of business value? You guys got in at $20, which is amazing, and I'm happy for you. But at the same time, like the new people, if they get in at 300 and it goes down, it may be years before they recover their.
Okay,
to
but
their-
there are 3%.
You know what? Fuck them.
3%.
They weren't listening to us when it was 20.
But there are 3% penetration of all the homes, say in America.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So so I'm saying your addressable market, like the available roof space in the United States, we're at 3%, and we haven't even talked commercial. We're just talking about a bunch of people with their little systems.
All right, Chris is not going to change. What other stocks do you not like, Chris?
I'm not big on semis right now. In the short term, AMD and Nvidia semis are not where you want to
TSM.
be.
What about TSM?
TSM is a little bit okay because they're going to be doing
Because
manufacturing.
Big Daddy Buffett just bought.
Oh, but
9%
also
of
don't
that.
they supply most of the chips for Apple too? Like I
Yeah,
mean, they're-
Apple and also now
AMD.
other companies and Intel now. Intel, believe it or not, shifted over their manufacturing to TSMC because they're just doing better with EUV lithography. So right now TSMC is like on all cylinders going to be great.
Well,
The
until
only-
Intel builds its own factories, I think people are
Right.
ignoring Intel. Honestly, look, I don't have. It's not a big position in my portfolio, but I do have it in my dividend portfolio.
Yeah.
But I think Intel is sort of like, oh, what are they gonna do? That kind of thing. And then they're putting manufacturing back in the United States and spending billions to do it, and nobody else is doing that. So that's
Can
going to
you-
be a
can
big
you
deal over
guys
the next decade.
Can Carlos or one of you respond to this question? Matt Money says, "Do we have our own oil factories, gas factories, wind farms? No. So why would we want our own solar panels?"
Okay.
Once
wait.
again, is he confusing what Enphase does with solar panels? Like, I don't know.
No, wait. Bring up the question again.
Yeah,
he's
what's the
saying that
question?
he's saying that because we don't have our own oil factories or gas factories.
We do. America
do.
makes
But here's the
America makes a huge amount of oil now, oil and gas, and they export it out. So I'm not
It's
sure.
true,
where that
but
is.
also, I mean, you mentioned this point earlier. Why would we want our own solar panel? Because the sun shines everywhere. You got it. That's why we're in the Middle East, is because the oil is there. Do you think if the oil was in Texas, we'd be bombing Texas right now? You know what I mean?
Dude, it's just another Palantir hater. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, but my point is that energy is local to the region. It's not like we can. Question doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no. It's a question trying to instigate. First of all, why would we do any of this? Because energy is so important for our.
You also have to. Matt works in the oil and gas. Is a little biased. That's why.
Well,
Okay,
I'm
a
saying
little biased,
energy.
a little
Well, yeah,
biased.
I get that. I totally actually understand that. If someone was trying to take over my industry, I'd be pissed off too. I get that, but we need our own energy. That's the bottom line. Like a lot of these problems have been happening over the seas for the last 30 years? How long? 40 years? It's all been based on oil, gas, getting energy. So imagine when energy is abundant and you can get it right locally. Imagine when that happens. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of fighting in order for that to happen because even companies here don't want that, and they're paying governments off completely to avoid doing this. Like I don't know if you've heard of all this net stuff going in California where they were trying to stop solar installations. Have you heard about this?
Okay,
What was it called?
No, but
Nets 3.0. What was it
Oh
called?
yeah.
hold on. Here's a question by Matt following up. He says, you're confusing what I mean. Enphase goes after the personal solar industry. Nobody wants to manage their own solar farm. I think my response before you guys get into it, if I understand Matt correctly, is because then he says, do you have your own gas station or do you share with everyone in your town? Is my
solar
house
panels are my gas station.
Yeah. That's my point. If your solar panels are on your house, then it funds everything. Why would gas is totally different than solar, right? A gas station needs all this fucking pipes to get the gas. The sun shining on your house means you have the energy.
This is the mentality. And look, I'm not saying Matt is wrong about that. There will be community solar farms, and actually just Con Edison and PSE&G, all those companies are eventually going to transition too for the people who can't get solar.
Or some of those, like Chevron and Exxon that already have the real estate. If they're smart, they will slowly convert.
I don't know about them. I'm saying Con Edison doesn't sell oil and gas. They don't care what they just want you to pay for the energy. Let's face it, right? So when Con Edison installs solar panels and wind farms and hydro because it's cheaper, just because it's cheaper, forget about everything else. Matt is out of a job, unfortunately, and we won't care where we get the power from, just like he's saying. So that is possible that half the country who can't put solar on their houses because they don't have 3,000 square foot on their roofs, fine. They go buy it, cheaper energy from Con Edison. Me and Carlos, who understand the math of this, will put solar panels on our roof. And is that not 20, 30, 40% of the country who will do this? There's a lot of houses out there.
But also, even for those places that don't generate it themselves, what they're talking about massive battery deployments for neighborhoods or cities, right? That cover a certain portion of it that can store that power and feed people, whether it be for overages or for blackouts.
No, but I'm saying both can be right. We can have the grid infrastructure, just like Chris was talking. We can have that. It'll just be more solar and less oil. That's what's going to happen in the future.
Right, but what he specifically said was, why would you want to have your own solar farm or manage your own farm? So what he's implying there is that there's a lot of overhead, that there's a lot of
management, right?
Managing it. Since I've had the panels installed, I've had one inverter that went down for one day, and the company came and swapped it out in 10 minutes, and I've never had an issue since.
I've never had
and since then I've gotten 2 EVs. I mean,
okay,
I produced...
what other stocks do you not like, Carlos and Vitaly? What would you take out? 3 stocks you would take out of this?
Well, Lulu. Why would I? Lulu's not something I even know much about, so I wouldn't.
Me neither. But it's also a really
Lulu.
small allocation.
I believe it or not, Lulu. At how much their operating margins are, and it's crazy.
You know what? Chris has the worst stock picks, I think.
I guess we'll see, right? I guess we'll see.
Are you 90% in Lulu right now?
Dude,
I am.
Dude, this is funny. Chris is like, sell Enphase, sell AMD, sell Tesla. Let's buy some more Lulu.
That's right, baby.
That's funny.
There's no Palantir in here, which I don't think is the best decision. I think.
Okay, are we going to talk about?
Okay, yes, let's get into it. Okay. Elon and Twitter. Let's get into it. So you, Vitaly, and Carlos are very big Elon fanboys. You made a lot of money off Tesla. Me and Chris, I do not think we made a lot of money off Tesla. So I'm curious.
And that's why Chris is at work right now.
Right.
That's right. That's why I.
To be clear,
Chris, sorry. You started a podcast. It's going to be a little bit of heat. Okay, there's just.
Fine, I can take it. Let's go.
To be fair, or to be clear, I don't consider myself an Elon fanboy. I would not be investing the amount of money that I am in those companies, which is like my kids' money, because I like the guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
asking
you believe in the actual company. So given you have significant positions in Tesla stock, and Twitter has obviously been an overhang on the company, now he potentially wants to go to war with Apple. What are your thoughts on his recent tweets and thoughts on the overall social media industry? Because now he's a social media chief executive. Vitaly, we'll start with you.
Yeah, he's I think when you're this rich, nobody says no to you, and I don't think a lot of people have said no to Elon for a long time, and he's mostly been right. That's what I think, right? SpaceX, people said don't do it, you're gonna lose all your money. He made it, right? He did Tesla, he was gonna lose all his money, he made it. So I think now that he thought he can do the same thing with Twitter, and I'm not saying Twitter's not gonna, and Carl's gonna disagree. I'm not saying Twitter's not gonna be successful eventually, but as a Tesla shareholder, I feel like the mission that I invested in was, let's alternative energy, basically. Let's change the world to what does Elon even say? To EVs, to clean energy.
Advance the world to sustainable energy.
To sustainable, like that's what he says, right? And let's go to Mars. Let's do those two things. Like those are hard enough, right? And now let's fix social media. It doesn't sound quite as important as like the other two things. So I'm not a fan of this Twitter thing at all. I think it's just a waste of his time. And he's costing me and Carlos maybe a lot of money in the interim. I think in the long term we'll be fine, but I think the stock is tanking because he's just messing around too much right now. And I know Carlos will disagree with us, so go ahead.
I actually see it as an enormous opportunity. I've funneled thousands of dollars into Tesla recently over this.
Well, so have I. No. But I'm saying long term, nothing changes.
Right. So, I mean, look, it's a little bit contradictory to talk about Enphase, right? And say that when you think about the long term, blah, 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 like we're not selling a majority of that position today. So all I'm looking at today is good entry points. And so I'm not looking to sell Tesla anytime soon. I have my price targets, and all I'm looking at right now is accumulation. This Twitter thing it's a distraction, I think, for investors, because nothing has fundamentally changed about Tesla. And I think Elon Musk, being the richest guy in the world and starting those companies, I think he is smart enough to know where his time is most needed. He could disappear tomorrow from Tesla, and I don't think that it would affect it as much as people think. Right. So the fundamental mission of Tesla, the flywheel is going. It's kind of like even right now, you could argue that Apple is still running Steve Jobs' playbook, right? With the watch and all the services. So I think Tesla has a 10-year roadmap, even if Elon stopped doing his part of the innovation. I think it's grossly overblown. And I think if Twitter was still public, that stock would be hammered. And since there's no other stock that people can hammer to express their discontent, they're hammering Tesla. But at the end of the day, the numbers win, right? There's always a point. In the 90s, Bill Gates was the most hated billionaire. He was the hated guy. Then in like the 2010s, it was Jeff Bezos was the hated guy. He bought Amazon, started making movies. He got trashed for that. Elon is just the latest, I think, in these billionaires. And I think a lot of it is politically motivated. I think there are real forces at play that want to make people hate billionaires or hate the accumulation of money. Oh, your solar panels went out.
Solar panels, motherfucker. This is why Matt just left the chat because of your bullshit solar bullshit.
Man.
He called his buddy.
He said, "I hope these two get humbled a little bit."
And they pulled
I wish it was my solar panels. I have everything on automated, so it turns off at a certain time.
That is so funny.
So
Chris, your thoughts on Tesla?
I think this
Look, automated, baby. Click the button, solar panels kick right in.
all right.
Boom.
Rich, bro. This guy's too rich.
With Twitter, I think this was a good move. I think this whole thing with Apple is an ecosystem play where Tesla already kind of has an ecosystem within its cars, right? So right now, if you look at Tesla, like when you get in the car, there is an operating system in that car. So that's a Tesla customized version of Linux, right? That they're running. So here's the thing. If I was trying to figure out how to create an ecosystem that my users could utilize, what would I do? Well, guess what? I would create a platform by which everyone has in their pocket a phone, right? And then at the same time, go after the one soft target that both Google and Apple have, which is that goddamn 30% developer fee. The key to winning for Elon is going to be getting developers to peel off of Apple and Google and to make things for an OS if if what's his name, if Elon comes up with one, which I would assume would be in the works, whether it be through either an acquisition or making a customized version built on the Tesla OS that's already in the cars. If you can synthesize that, put it into a phone, right, and then get people to switch or at least co-develop applications, and guess what? Make it so that the application cost is like literally 5%.
5%.
Dude, people would jump on it. All these developers be like, dude, I'm giving, first of all, by not building on Tesla's or let's say a Tesla phone, what they're doing is essentially screwing themselves long term, because now they're going to have to pay 30% to Apple no matter what. I mean, Apple is on another level of tyranny when it comes to these developers, where they're literally.
Do you actually?
What's wrong with Chris's take?
Well, hold on, let me clarify. You're actually saying Elon will develop a phone and it will succeed. Those two things have to happen.
Yeah, I feel like they skipped a bunch of steps.
I would say Elon will definitely come out with a phone, and Elon will definitely try to get developers on it. It's either one of two things. He's going to get Apple to cave on their advertising by putting these threats out there, saying, look, if you threaten me, I'm going to threaten you. And he's not exactly a fanboy when it comes to Apple. He already knows. He's already had contentious statements when it came to Apple making a car, right? Like, the last thing you want is another big entrant with the money power that.
Yeah,
Apple
but Chris,
has.
do you even think he has the time to focus on making a fucking phone? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
this is what Tom was saying today that he would
No.
do, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
Like, why would
he would have the time.
No. The
Do you think
problem
that
is
the percent chance that Elon makes a phone is greater or less than 50%?
I think it's greater, because at this
my
point he's
God.
about to be deplatformed. Dude, right now, if Apple took him out, if
Twitter
out
would
of the-
never leave the App Store. The
No.
amount
No,
of users.
Hold on. All I'm saying is, if Apple were to take Twitter off the App Store right now, Apple would not be nearly as affected as Twitter would. Twitter would probably end up like their valuation.
Let's say that happens. First of all, let's say Twitter gets removed. Epic Games was removed because they went around the App Store, if you guys remember. And
Epic Game didn't have 340 million users, though. I think Apple would think twice.
I'm just saying, yeah, and obviously also DeSantis, I think, in Florida today came out with a whole speech, or a couple of days ago, basically saying if Apple does this kind of thing, that's free speech limiting, we're going to go after them. So it's not going to look good for Apple to do that, by the way. But let's say they do it. From that point on, how long till Elon has his product out?
It's like a year, right? It's like a minimum, like a year or a year and a half.
Yeah, forget about that. FCC approvals for a new phone. All the app developers have to get on board. I mean, like,
or
and
does he license an Android phone and do it that way?
Yeah,
Like,
Android is open source, so they can actually do it very easily if he were to go that route.
No, that's not the point. The point is like there's a whole from here to there is a multi-year minimum process.
Right. No, I agree. It's definitely a multi-year process, but at the same time, Elon is the type of guy that would actually commit to it. Not to mention, he's got the other main benefit, which is Starlink, right? Like, he's got connections with that stuff. So now if you have an integrated platform where if you're controlling the telecom portion, the software portion, the phone, and all the mobility that comes around it, dude, I think you have a great product.
But I think the core of Vitali's question is what happens in the interim, because that's a strategy that they could take on even if Apple keeps them on the App Store. And I don't disagree with you. I would say that the chances that that's part of the plan, right, is greater than 50%. You know, just like Starlink being connected to self-driving Teslas, that would be a robotaxi network. You can kind of see how all this stuff's going to work together, right? But they're making money in the meantime. If Apple takes Twitter off of the App Store, how does Twitter sustain itself to weather that storm?
Yeah, and that's the question that
it's a lot of blue checks.
And that's a lot of things. That's a lot of questions that Elon is probably having.
I personally think Elon is just trying to get a better deal. I don't think he needs another project. I think even he knows he doesn't need another project right now. Twitter's a handful already, and it's taking him away and tanking the Tesla stock at the same time. So I don't think he wants to now develop this other thing. It just seems like it's fine to have a lot of businesses. I get that. And Elon is a smart guy. He can do it. I'm not saying he can't, but I think even he realizes he needs to be back on mission. And especially his core group is probably telling him very strongly that Tesla's suffering because you're not there on a daily basis doing your thing. So,
this is
real quick super chat. Sunny Gill, he's going to sleep in the United Kingdom. Thank you for joining us. €5. Thank you
Oh,
for being here.
thanks,
We'll see you on the podcast.
That's pounds. That's
next week.
pounds.
Oh, that's
not
pounds.
euros.
Oh, shit.
That's like $1 million right now.
That's
No,
$1
no,
million.
it's actually
Exchange
equal
rate.
to the United States
know,
dollar.
it's about
I'm gonna put that in end phase for all of us. We're gonna make a Financial Junkies Robinhood account. Every super chat goes into end phase.
Yeah, it should go into Enphase,
And then
Bitcoin,
Lulu.
and Ethereum. Yeah.
Lululemon, bro.
This is
That's where we're going.
Yeah,
This is
you know,
where
it's
I
funny.
was-
In 30 years, that'll be Chris's only money that we put into.
Bro, Lululemon is coming, bro. Lululemon is coming.
The financially
Okay, let's do this. First of all, shout out to 146 people being here at 10 p.m. for our first podcast ever. We appreciate you
Wow.
guys so much.
Thank
check
you,
out
guys.
everyone's channel in the description. Mean the world for you guys to
Oh,
join.
now I can actually see the comments.
You can see it, yes.
Comments.
Let's transition the conversation here, okay? Apple stopped spending on advertising allegedly $50 million. That's Elon has to have that intel because he's the chief twit. He should know that stuff.
Wait,
so
I'm sorry. Say that part again. Apple what?
Apple stopped spending advertising on Twitter. It was about
Uh-huh.
$50 million. They spent Q1, so all of that's gone to zero, or at least significantly decreased.
Uh-huh.
Does
Well,
Apple
Emma, hold on. Before you go, there was something very interesting. It wasn't Apple that stopped the advertising. It was the company that Apple contracts to suggested that they stop. So this
Right.
Omicron,
The
they're
media
called
buyer.
Omicron group. Right. So
Yes.
whoever the media buyer was the one that kind of told Apple, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. So just to let you know, it might not have been 100% an Apple decision, but more the media company telling Apple, like, hey, listen, you don't want to be part of the fallout that Twitter is going to have with all these leaning left liberals going to attack Apple products because they're advertising on Twitter.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that goes into my question here. Whether it's Omicron or whether it's Apple, ultimately they have to make a joint decision. Do they actually care about the health and safety of Twitter being an unsafe platform where their ads are showing up against violent content,
Does Apple-
or are they actually against free speech in America, which is Elon's point?
Apple
I don't-
could
I
give
don't-
two shits, dude, about
Yeah,
anything
I
as
don't
long as it
think-
makes
Let's start with
money.
Chris, let's start with Chris.
Dude, as long as it makes money, Apple will do anything. Dude, they have slave labor camps
Yeah,
around the
they
world.
have
making
little
You have,
money.
children.
you have people jumping. Do you know that at the
Yeah.
iPhone factory they have nets that catch people that try to jump out of the windows, bro,
Yeah.
and they put you back to work? Like
Apple only cares about image and success.
that's what
money.
it is, right? It's
The-
about the image. They don't want
Yeah.
the negative press of them looking bad, and so whatever the new thing is that we're all supposed to be against, they're gonna stand. They're gonna change their profile pic, and they're gonna get in line and repeat the talking points because they just don't want the negative press.
And you know, it's their money. If they took out $50 million from Elon, you know what? Honestly, fuck Elon, because they can do what they want with their money. That's the bottom line. But if they start messing around with Twitter itself and start removing 300 million people, like you said, from accessing this app,
But my
That's a
question
problem.
is, first of all, shout out to Rizzy for $5. We got another $5 into Enphase.
Damn, look
Thank
at
you
this.
so
The
much.
I love the
There we
one.
go.
I love
yo,
the
Amit,
extra
have you ever
channel.
made this much money in like 30 minutes on YouTube?
No, you guys are the reason. This is what's happening. But why did they take? Why are they playing this fight with Twitter? Do you actually think they're afraid of their ads showing up in front of bad content, or are they trying to pull the rug under Elon? I guess is the bigger question I'm trying to ask. Are they trying to make Twitter unsuccessful by doing the little part they can do, which is stop advertising?
I don't know.
I don't. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll just say I don't think so because other advertisers have already left because it's a shit show right now, and Elon's going to fix it. I'm sure he will, by the way. But while he fixes it, it's a shit show, and if you're an advertiser, you just don't want to risk it. I think that's the bottom line. That's what comes down to it. If they could sell more iPhones, okay, which they're not making anymore, but if they can sell more iPhones, they would have left the $50 million in, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think. Again, I don't think that they particularly care. The whole free speech thing. I would say that publicly they would say that they are for it, except when it's like China, right? With people protesting at the factories. That's not something that they would want. Like I
That's
didn't see,
wild,
I
right?
didn't see that story on the cover of the Apple News, right? I didn't see
Right,
that.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where they might not actively try to discredit it, but they're also not going to promote it. I mean, but any company would. This is the thing. It's like I can't fault Apple for that. You can't expect just like I don't expect, Facebook, Twitter, or any of these social media platforms to be banning people or to be silencing people. I also don't expect Apple to be reporting on how shitty some of their business practices are,
Is there any world in which Apple wants to start a social media company? They gutted Facebook. It looks like they're kind of trying to gut Twitter. Is there a world in which they're trying to build iMessage, for example? Because again, iPhone 14 sales are down, right? iPhone 17 is not going to sell as well as the iPhone 7. At some level, they're going to have to find their next S curve. I don't think it's going to be the stupid headset. It's definitely not a car. It has to be services, just basic deduction of their business.
But why wouldn't it be the headset?
Well, let's just say for the argument it's not. Let's just say no one gives a fuck about the headset, and they sell some, but they don't sell like as much as the iPhone. At that point, they need revenue from somewhere, and that would be advertising. And the best way to do advertising is a social network.
Guys, before that, here's the thing. In Apple's calculation when it came to, taking their ads off, do you think that they calculated Elon putting them out there so publicly and blowing up this whole like freedom of speech?
I don't think they give a fuck about
No. Not that they don't give a fuck.
I don't think they give a shit.
I don't think they calculated that. I did not. Yeah. I don't think they put that into their calculation.
No. Because they wouldn't have done it.
But bro, but this is my point. Elon's talking shit about them does nothing to Apple.
Well, no, now it does.
No.
Now it does.
The stock was.
Who's leaving the iPhone? Who's leaving their iPhone?
No, it's not that. It's not that
price.
No, it's a simple question. Who's leaving their iPhone because Elon says they're against free speech?
No, it has nothing to do with that. No one's going to leave, by the way. I'm not leaving. I'm keeping my iPhone.
So then why would the stock go down?
I'm telling you right now, the Republicans are taking this and running with this. DeSantis, I believe it was, who just did it. He came out with a whole speech talking about that Apple is trying to limit free speech. Apple does not want to hear that on national TV. Okay, that's not what Apple wants to hear. They will gladly spend $50 million not to hear that. So,
but they're in a position where they can't do it right now.
Yes.
And also,
they can't do it right now because it'll look like they were scared. Right.
They got to fix it.
And then even if they did spend it, then people say, what was Apple so afraid of that they just coughed up the 50 million overnight? So it's a really delicate political game that they need to play right now.
And they're being investigated for being a monopoly right now. And there's legislation out there that's going for anti-monopolistic practices, specifically by the tech giants. Literally, this was one of the stupidest. Like, I think whoever at Omicron told Apple, like, hey, cut your spending from Twitter. Like, I think that was the dumbest advice that you could have given to Apple. And I think that person should be fucking fired, dude. Because at this point, yeah.
So speaking of, if that's the point, then your guys' argument is basically like Apple's going to be a monopoly. They're going to go to court for this. Let's listen.
They are in court.
Well, yes, but it's going to be more intense, right? Let's listen in 2008 to Steve Jobs explain.
All right, this is funny. Put this up. Chris is using
explain why this is happening. It's a minute 30 seconds. Let's listen to his argument for why, and this is the same argument they're going to put in court. If DeSantis takes them heavy to court, this is exactly what they're going to say around their 30% fee.
Is going to be the exclusive way to distribute iPhone applications directly to every iPhone user. Now, developers are going to ask, well, this is great, but what's the deal, right? What's the business deal? We think we've got a great business deal for our developers. First of all, the developer picks the price. Pick whatever price you want to sell your app at. When we sell the app through the App Store, the developer gets 70% of the revenues right off the top. We keep 30% to pay for running the App Store. There are no credit card fees for the developer. We take care of all that. There are no hosting fees for us hosting the app. We take care of all that. There's no marketing fees. The developer gets 70% of the revenues, and it's paid monthly. This is the best deal going to distribute applications to mobile platforms. Now, we talk about the 70-30 revenue split, but the developer gets to pick the price. And you know what price a lot of developers are going to pick? Free, right? So when a developer wants to distribute their app for free, there is no charge for free apps at all. There's no charge to the user, and there's no charge to the developer. We're going to pay for everything to get those apps out there for free.
Do you guys know I'm a developer and I have apps in the App Store?
I knew you were a developer. I didn't know you had a.
Yeah.
I don't know you had no apps on the App Store. Okay.
I have some apps, and Apple has been charging me. I think they lowered it now to 15%, but I was after 5 years or 6 years of paying 30%. And this is like
the 30% is only supposed to be over.
No, it's now. That changed only within the last year and a half, 2 years. So Apple did that because of a lot of pressure, because there's lots of developers who make tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands for a team. That's not a lot of money, by the way. So they were taking 30% of that. And hosting is $10. Okay, hosting is not the way they make it seem. Like people who aren't technical don't know. Everything he said is total horseshit. He's literally paying. It's a walled garden. You get to be behind the wall. and you got to give him 30%. It's like it's a.
Are you saying the
total racket.
legendary Steve Jobs pulled a fast one under developers, and he
Yeah.
manifested this big 30% cut that has not gone away for 15 years? He
It's
like
a total racket.
made it into the
Okay,
world.
but to be fair, I think a lot of you have to take Steve Jobs' words in context. Just like we try to interpret the Constitution, like the right to bear arms. They had muskets back then, not like grenade launchers. That was when they were trying to seed. They were trying to entice developers.
They were trying to get a fuck ton of apps.
Right,
They
they
barely
need to
had
get
apps,
a bunch
yeah.
of apps out there. So I think if Steve Jobs was alive today, I think his response to that would be something different, you know. And actually, a question that I had related to this whole Twitter thing is, if Steve Jobs was still the CEO of Apple, how do you think he would be handling, say, the Twitter acquisition, the war with Musk? Do you think that Apple would be guilty of some of the things that they have been guilty of since he left?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Steve created the company, and he set Tim Apple on a course.
I love that.
Bro, that was the funniest moment in Trump.
It really was.
No, but I'm saying he
There was a
sent
lot, but-
Tim Cook basically on this course. Tim Cook is not doing. He's following Steve Jobs' play with the what is it called? But knowing the supply chain. Yes, he's the supply chain. Blah blah. But
Right.
he's following, Jobs' way, 100%.
Chris, you think he would be different? Jobs as
No.
CEO?
No, Jobs was a confrontational asshole, dude. He
Yeah.
would have fired, dude. He would have came after Elon, be like, "Oh
He would
yeah,
have taken his app in 3 seconds off.
get the fucking Apple car out next week. Let's go." That's what he would have said. It's like, fuck
What?
this secrecy shit. Apple car launches 2020.
Do you think? Okay. Do you think
Yeah.
Apple would have been like? It's pretty clear that Apple skews politically left. Do you think that Steve Jobs, under Steve Jobs, that Apple would still have that sort of left-leaning bias?
All of that is performative, dude. Most of Silicon Valley, in my opinion, is all performative nonsense. That, oh, we're liberal left because that is what what the status quo is. I don't think half of them, especially when you get to the C-suite level, give two shits about half of these woke causes, because at the end of the day, they know that they have to kiss the ring of the woke left and the media in order to do business, because most of them have pretty crazy unethical practices that they all live by. So you know what? If it means they have to, on occasion do
Bend
a
the knee.
rainbow colored like Twitter handle or whatever, they'll do it. If they have to support some liberal ideologies, they'll do it. I don't think necessarily that majority of them even feel that way, because at the end of the day, when it comes, it's all about profits for them. Okay, if it's affecting their profit center, they will lean whichever way is the prevailing wind. But that's my thing.
So I have a question here. In 2018, when Vitaly and Carlos were not rich off of Tesla, Elon Musk went to Tim Apple, and said, "Hey, bro."
I had the same camera, by the way, back then that Chris has.
You know what? My camera looks pretty goddamn clear. I
No,
don't
on
know
your
why.
side. No, seriously.
Chris,
right
Chris,
now,
by the way,
you look like those like live from Baghdad video phones. From, like,
Really?
90s. It's
Chris,
horrible.
this is how it feels every morning when you're like, Amit, your mic is cackling. Your mic is cackling. This is how it feels.
You know what,
Everyone
Amit?
tells me
Let's go to Amit. His mic is cackling all the time. It's just so annoying. Fix
It's good
that
for this
shit.
podcast. It
I
decided to be
don't.
nice
I don't
for you
hear any
guys.
cackling right now.
I know.
Yeah, because
I
it likes you,
listened to his
Carlos.
Morning
You're a
stream.
nice guy.
His morning stream with Tom, and I can't believe Tom hasn't chewed him out yet.
Whose fucking thing is on in the back?
I think that was
That's
Chris.
Okay,
no,
so
you were making a point. 2018.
in 2018,
Yeah.
Elon doesn't think Tesla's going to make it. He goes to Tim Cook or he tries to get a meeting with
Right.
Tim Cook and says, "Would you guys buy it out?" Maybe they would have bought it for like 30, 40, 50 billion, maybe
Yeah.
100 billion. It wouldn't be 500-600 billion or even a trillion. So Tim Cook doesn't even take the meeting. Here's my question. Why do you think he didn't take the meeting in 2018? Apple was sitting on, I think, about 150 billion of cash at the time. Now it's like 200 billion.
I mean, because
Why
clearly,
didn't he take the meeting?
if they're developing their own car in any capacity, the last thing you need to do is have a meeting with the guy that might be your competitor, who's going to say you stole technology, or you don't want nothing to do with him.
You're wrong. He wasn't developing shit.
In
He
2018,
didn't take the meeting because he didn't think that was a real thing. EVs were not a real thing yet. Elon made them a real thing, and then Tim Cook or Tim Apple, he's like, oh shit, we got to get into the next thing, and that's cars.
but I think
Absolutely.
we've been hearing.
He's
we've
a
been hearing about
follower.
this
He is a
longer than
follower.
20
He's not a creator. That is not what is happening here. He was not a creator.
I'm just saying, we've been hearing about the Apple car for way longer than 2018. And Apple was already Apple was already
Really?
Apple was already trying
Can
to
you
get
look that up,
car with
Amit?
car price.
Is that?
Carlos,
2018?
I think that doesn't make any sense. They were not. Do you think they were thinking about a car in 2018?
Chris's
saying that-
internet
no,
has
no,
done
I'm
so
not saying-
well.
I'm not saying that they were. I'm saying
Okay, but like,
They-
let's even if that, why wouldn't you take the meeting, bro? Like a meeting? Like you wouldn't take a fucking meeting with Elon Musk, one of the most legendary entrepreneurs. Like, why didn't they not even entertain that? Was there
Okay,
something deeper?
But most of Wall Street felt that Tesla was going to fail. So
the Saudis were ready to fund him. I mean,
okay, but maybe but maybe they had
the
more.
Saudis have a lot of fucking money. Why can't Apple fund them? Apple was not a $3 trillion company at that time.
But do you think? Look, do you think a car is a whole different animal, man, than selling a phone? It's just. I can see Tim Cook coming from the supply chain side, being like, cars are a supply chain nightmare. If we're having the issues that we're having with batteries in our phones, forget about powering a car and actuators and motors and software. Forget.
Yeah,
it.
but that's where the visionary stuff comes in, because Tesla, the car, obviously,
he's not a visionary.
Well,
not a visionary.
that's my point, because the Tesla car in 2018, we didn't know the Model 3 was as amazing as it was, but then in 2019 it exploded. And if Apple owned that, the data, the ML, the proprietary, like that, Apple's a $5 trillion company by now, right?
Absolutely. But I mean, this goes back to the earlier point. I think Jobs would have taken the meeting, at least.
Oh no, Jobs would have taken the meeting. I don't know if he would have bought it, but he would have taken the meeting.
Yeah,
I think Tim Cook knows what he's doing in terms of running the company that he has. And that could run for the next 20, 30 years, making these awesome devices, by the way. I have no doubt that we'll have another watch or we'll have another phone or whatever. Fine.
Well, the goggles, whatever they do with the goggles, I think that it'll be a hit. Maybe not version 1, maybe not version 2. But by now,
hold on, I'm saying, but visionary wise, he's not Jobs, he's not Elon Musk, he's not even Bezos. He's just a guy who's going to run the company and make a shit ton of money, of course. But I don't think he would have bought that car company at all.
Okay, let me put this question out there. When Warren Buffett bought Apple, they were a $500 billion company. Now they're close to $3 trillion. Tesla's sitting at about 530. Does Berkshire buy in?
No.
Do they even consider buying in?
No.
Why?
I don't think so.
Well, I think Warren has always been clear that he doesn't understand tech, right? So he has two other guys, I forgot their names, but they might buy in eventually at some point, just like they bought into Amazon eventually, right? So, but the problem is, none of those guys can look at a company like Tesla and not think it's overvalued. It's impossible for them to do that if you value it as a car business. So if you just value it for how much money they make in cars, that's it. Not the possibility of robo-taxis, not the possibility of this other thing and robots.
The robot.
Like no one is valuing that except retail investors. Let's face it. Okay, so but it's true. It's like either
the robots are kind of stupid to value right now.
Well, yeah, it's idiotic. So I don't think Warren Buffett would ever let them buy it, unless it's at a totally reasonable valuation, which means that company goes back to $50 billion. No, $50 billion bucks.
What's Ford at? Like forward EPS 5 or 8?
Right.
Yeah.
And Tesla's what's still 50? Still 50, around there. Yeah.
Tesla would have to be like, what is it, $12?
No, but it has to go down 10x basically. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And then just off of the charts, right? They probably buy it. Oh.
Okay.
There we go.
Chris has entered the chat.
When he buys Enphase, he'll upgrade his internet and iPhone camera.
No,
He's like,
dude, I had to switch to my MacBook. I was trying to use my office work computer.
Right.
But I think
it's actually a lot clearer now.
Yeah, it's actually better.
Good. Yeah. It's an Apple product. That's why it's good.
Yeah, it's Apple product.
And he flexes with the Apple Watch. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
So why don't we keep this pod to an hour? So let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So we got about 7 minutes.
Why don't we end with why do you wear rings now?
Bro, I'm just a eccentric individual.
Bro,
it was a glove at one point. It was rings. I got a leather jacket I haven't worn for 2 months, but I bought it off Amazon.
He's having a midlife crisis at 25. That's right.
No, it's just I don't know, bro. I like being weird and shit, and like
I wasn't weird. You don't have to do extra.
I went through that phase in the '90s too. Had my skateboard everywhere. Are you wearing Jenko jeans?
He's wearing Pepe.
Wearing Pepe. Okay, let's ask. Let's. I kind of like this. At the last 5 minutes, there's 160 people here. We'll see how many of them leave. Last 5 minutes.
Look, I think
we'll just do personal stuff. Or we'll do comments. Last 5 minutes.
Is Bacon Bombs? Are you talking about Apple in 2018? Around 5,000 employees were reported to be working on the project.
Yes, he's talking about Apple.
Right.
So he's saying that they were working on a car.
Yeah.
I
They,
believe
what,
so.
what did they call it? It was called Project. What the hell was the name of it?
It was yeah. There was a name for this. It was
They had a name. Apple.
Project Apple Car.
It was called
I
Project
just typed in
Titan.
Project Car on Google.
Project Titan. That's what it was called.
That's
See,
like-
okay,
oh,
so hold on. I know they're working on the self-driving thing. So I think we're confusing two things. Building a car and building the software for a car. They were working on that, the software for the car, because we have Apple CarPlay, we have all of that. But I don't know if they were actually working on building a car. Is there any actual evidence for that?
Well, they were talking to, wasn't it Volkswagen?
No,
wasn't
well,
Apple
Kia.
working
once
on
again,
it?
that's
Kia.
somebody else. That's somebody else building it then. But they were actually building the software for the car.
No, but they would build their own like branded car using like the skeleton of or the base of a Volkswagen car. It's kind of like how like Ford and Lincoln are the same car. Like I used to have a Ford. I used to have the Lincoln MKX. It's basically a Ford Edge. Lincoln just took the body and added their own upgrades to it, made it more soundproof, added some luxury to it, and it was rebranded. But they
Okay.
basically got the car, rebranded it as their own.
Possible they
own.
partnered with somebody.
2018, he did the Joe Rogan smoking weed podcast. Do you think that turned Tim Cook off as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, do you know that was like Vitaly and I like lost touch for several years? Like we were in touch, but I remember that. I remember texting.
And that's
you.
when we were buying because
Yeah,
this is
I
our
remember
opportunity.
Tesla was like 307, and it went to like 254 the next day.
It
And I
went,
was like, bro.
it went all the way down to 170 because of that instigate, him smoking. It brought it all the way down.
And I was like, "Are you buying this right?"
Yeah.
Like literally nothing's changed about the company. I thought that was so cool that he took a hit. I was like, "Oh man, this is ridiculous. This is gonna shoot back up."
Yeah.
Shout out to NY.
What is Enphase's moat? That's why you got to check out the channel in the description. There's a great channel with a lot of information on Enphase. So,
Mhm.
Or
yeah.
check
First,
out-
guys,
or
let us
check-
know.
Or check out
Chris,
Chris's channel, which he tells
I
you
don't
there is
think
no
I
moat.
don't think
no, Chris
Apple
likes
is gonna.
Snowflake on his channel. That's
Yeah,
what he
I do
talks
love
about.
Snowflake. I don't think Apple is gonna go with a car because for them they have to literally get like an 80-90% margin on a product. Otherwise, like they don't do it. Like every single thing that they do, it's always expensive when it comes to selling, but really cheap to manufacture. Right? Consumer electronics is their bread and butter. I don't think that they would risk trying to go with such a capital intensive business like autos and have ton of competition. For some reason I don't see it. Now here's the thing I do see them making Apple or iOS available on different car companies.
That's already.
I know they have
No,
I know they
that's
have
already
I know
happened.
they have CarPlay, but more integration than that,
Mhm.
where they can charge like premium prices to say, look, you have an Apple branded car. Like right now, I'm sure that they're not getting that much money from an Apple CarPlay enabled car because most of the stuff is based on QNX, right? For the cars. But imagine right now you have a car and the operating system on that car is Apple.
There has to
I
be
think
some
it's-
functionality that's more than just cool looking icons and Siri. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what I think that the ship has sailed on Apple coming out with, say, a consumer car. But I do think what I could see them doing is developing autonomous. I do see them developing, say,
Wow,
maybe a
but
1 or 2 seater autonomous.
They don't have the
car
data.
that
right?
doesn't-
Yeah.
But they'd have to develop that software. That's the only That's the only way I would see Apple coming out with a car. I don't think it would be something that's like like a Toyota Camry, a competitor to that. I just don't see them doing that.
Yeah,
But I
me
could see
neither.
them.
I agree.
Can we end it with this? I don't know if you want to do this, all of you. You can agree or disagree, but maybe the last thing is what we're looking at this week. If we're looking at to invest in something, buy something, or looking at the market in a different way. For example, what are you guys looking at?
I'll go first. I'm looking very basic. I just want to see if the S&P ends the week above 400 or below 400, because that would make 2 weeks in a row. If we're above 400, we've been stuck in the 394, 400 range. We peaked at 402. CPI is on December 13th. If we stay 397, 398, 400, and CPI goes from 7.7 even to 7.4, I mean, which some people are saying, Chris, I know you showed a picture, it's like 6.3 or some shit. Like the S&P might rip. So I'm looking at the S&P.
Okay. But are you buying? Are you buying?
I
the
have
S&P
$1
right now?
of the S&P. And I bought it so that it would show up in the watch list automatically, so I don't have to keep looking for it. No, I'm not buying.
I do that too. Yeah. You're just like, right, because it's so freaking annoying.
It's so annoying, bro.
Man.
I just want to see
have
this
that
shit. About
damn
$1
thing
of it.
Right.
I'm not deploying any cash right now.
Okay.
First of all, I'm not as rich as you guys. I have the holidays coming up. I want to, buy some gifts. But also, I'm just like, if 2023 sucks, I'll wait. I don't care. I'll wait. Vitaly, what are you looking at? Or sorry, Chris, then Vitaly.
I'm just looking at earnings this week for some of the major SaaS companies. Like Snowflake is reporting tomorrow, which will be interesting because I want to see what kind of growth rate. I do think that they're going to have a deceleration in growth rate because everyone is cutting back on workload spending, you know, like with the recession here. And I do see us probably getting somewhat hit with some recessionary tailwinds. But I do think that we're going to be recovering after June. So I'm looking at a lot of opportunities for companies that have been beaten down that I know in my own business practice, like that it's like crazy. Everyone uses it. So like an example is CrowdStrike. Everyone's like, oh my God, CrowdStrike, it missed its earnings, blah. But if you really take a step back, you would see how many businesses use CrowdStrike, how crazy growth that they actually have. Like right now they're getting, and some of it's, believe it or not, very deserved. Like their valuations were exceptionally high, but their valuations are coming down so significantly that now you're getting a lot of opportunities to buy. And like, here's another one, Shopify. I'm keeping my eye on Shopify. I'm keeping my eye on Coinbase because right now Coinbase has 5 billion in cash. If they survive the crypto winter that we're going through, they can come out ahead and become another 10 bagger, because now what's going to happen is they'll be the only one of few remaining trusted sources left in an industry. Anytime, I always see this happen with every industry. You have these peaks when it's a new technology and everyone gets hyped, everyone buys shit. Oh my God, this is the next big thing. They just bring the fucking price so high that it just doesn't make sense. And then they all crash. And about 90%,
Coinbase was 400, and then it came down.
90% of the companies don't survive. They all die, but the 10% that are left end up becoming dominating companies. Like look at the Amazon.
All the money.
Yeah, look at Amazon after 2000. You know, look at Google after 2000. So those are the companies I'm looking for.
I think he's right about some of this, but I did look at, just to answer his thing, CrowdStrike, I took a look at it. They're still at around 18 price of sales, which is still kind of high, I feel, especially if their customers are dwindling right now. I do believe you the long term, it makes sense, but I feel like they have some more room to fall. So I'm not rushing into that one. Coinbase is actually, it's pretty obviously should be bought right now. I'm not buying it right now because me and Carlos went a little bit too heavy when it was way higher. We don't even want to talk about that right now. So we're looking at that. I'll look at that in 2023, see how that does, because crypto is going to be in a shitstorm for the next year anyway. It's going to be low. So there's no rush for Coinbase. But what I'm actually looking at, and I'll tell you all the stocks and all the crypto. Bitcoin, I want under 14, so I have buys going down. I think if it ever hits 10, it's a buying opportunity almost of a lifetime. That's what I think. And I think it's an easy 6-bagger, if not a 10-bagger. Ethereum should be hopefully at $700 or so. And I think that's an easy 10-bagger. Oh my God, if that happens. So if that drops, great. If it doesn't, then I do have Ethereum and Bitcoin, so I don't have to buy anymore. The next thing I'm looking at, obviously Tesla. I have been buying Tesla, and that as it drops, it becomes better, not worse. That's what everybody keeps missing. That the upside gets higher and higher. And I think I talked to Amit, but I don't know if you're buying any Tesla. Amit.
I did. I DC'd at 178. I got one share.
I mean, I one share. Okay, you gotta go a little.
I spent the other $150 on Palantir.
You got to go a little bit heavier than one share.
Technically a DCB, I dollar cost bought. Like there's no average without another.
No, I did. My average is 220 on fucking like 9 shares.
Yeah, no. As long as you keep buying and if you in quality, then I think that's important. And phase I feel is too expensive, even though that's actually at this point it's my biggest position because it's the only thing that's held up in the stock market.
It's been bulletproof.
He has his one share.
7 shares.
There's a couple more in SoFi.
On it.
All right, very nice, very nice.
Yeah, but that's post split, dude. So you have 3 shares of Tesla. What do you have?
Well, that's okay. That's okay. Look,
I'm working on it, man.
Somewhere. No, everyone's got to start somewhere, so I'm okay with that as long as you keep dollar cost averaging. And phase is probably
bought Tesla for the first time last week.
There you go. Nice.
Welcome to the party.
So Enphase, I really want more of, but I'm waiting for that 220 and under, and I'm hoping it does have a chance to hit around $200 again. I follow the charts very closely, and 220 I feel is still doable. So I'm waiting for under that. So I'm waiting to get that. Amit has left his own pod.
I'm here.
So one thing really quick that's interesting. I don't know if you guys have been tracking Coinbase's insider buying, but Brian Armstrong, who's the CEO, has been nonstop selling, and he has no shares left at all.
He has no shares now?
No.
Dead ass?
No, that can't be right.
Yeah, look it up.
A lot of these guys have like a trust too that they have.
No. It's in his trust, 0. But do you know who does who's been buying like crazy?
Kathy Wood.
Tobias Lutke from Shopify.
Oh yeah, this
He's
motherfucker's
been
been
buying-
buying like
That is,
crazy.
He's
weird.
buying-
I gotta look into that. That's weird.
I know Brian sold 30,000 shares, but I didn't know that was the last of.
No,
his
he's
fucking shares.
completely out. He doesn't have a single goddamn share.
Wait, but he has to
Look
have
at it.
options or something, right?
I don't know
There
whatever his
might be,
payment
yeah,
plan is.
Yeah,
might
he's
be
probably
something.
getting constantly
He'll be able to
shares as
exercise
well.
options
Yeah. I'm sure of that. But let me finish this off. So the other more speculative stocks, Unity, I've been buying that, and it fell to 18.
Yo, I heard their fucking SBC is insane, bro. Joseph Carlson was talking about this shit. Like, it's at a different level, apparently. Worse than
It is.
Palantir.
Yeah, well, it's
Much worse than
speculative.
Palantir.
It's very speculative. I agree, but I know Unity. It's a monopoly. I can't say Palantir is a monopoly. Unity and Epic are the monopoly in all of gaming, basically.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if we go into virtual worlds, if this does happen, then Unity and Epic Games will be the
It's all built,
beneficiaries, and that's it. There's two companies who own the whole thing. That's what I'm betting on, and I can't
Okay.
invest in one of them because they're not public yet. So Epic Games is not public. Okay, so that's the other one, and the last one I would say is let me see, Shopify. I was looking into, but besides Unity, I think I'll end it there. That's fine for now. And Meta, of course, Meta. I have plenty of Meta, but if it continues to fall even further, I will buy more Meta.
I will buy
adding
more
up-
Meta too if it falls a little bit.
I'm doing a debit spread on Meta. By 2025, I'm doing a $125 and a $200 credit debit spread that I told Vitaly about.
Yep.
That's literally every other week. I'm just adding to that.
Oh, nice. I still have my call options, and I wanted to get more, so I'm waiting for those.
Yeah.
Okay, Carlos, what are you looking at?
Honestly, lately I've been watching Ethereum. I feel like Ethereum is like the canary in the coal mine for crypto, even though Bitcoin is like the heavyweight. I don't know why. This seems just really familiar, like deja vu to 2020. And
2018, you mean? 2018?
No, 2020 when I was starting to accumulate. I mean, I was really accumulating at the $300-400 level, and I feel like there is a disconnect. I feel like Ethereum does need to get under 1,000, and I think we need to see that bottom. So I've been really looking at Ethereum, but also I've been using this opportunity. I built out the position in Doge that I want. I have the position in Cardano that I want. I've been building the position in Tesla that I want, and I feel like I put like a stupid amount of money into Tesla recently. And so now I'm looking for even like lower prices, right? Like now it's got to be 170, 160, 150. So I like you, I've got the soldiers on the sideline. I'm like, Braveheart, the soldiers are there, and I'm just like, hold.
I'm not a very big crypto guy, but what do you guys think of Matic? Because I was looking at some banks right now.
Don't even waste your time. Honestly, just buy
Like Polygon
Bitcoin and
Network?
Ethereum, and don't worry about it. Everything else,
Like
you don't
Polygon
have to worry
Network?
about.
No?
To Chris's point too, and what Vitaly mentioned earlier, I need to bring my average down. Like what I do in these sorts of time periods is I use this time to bring my averages down if I feel like I got caught out there, right? To just bring my break-even point just a little bit lower. And so that's what I've been doing with most of the positions, and then accumulating the ones that I wish I had more of. I mean, we're looking at levels on some of these things that they haven't been since 2020. And I always say to myself, if I had this money in 2020, like knowing what I know now, I would have dumped it in. This is it's like a redo button, right?
I do have a new coin that I want to pitch. It's FFT. Has anyone heard of this?
Freelancer finance token.
No.
Wait, is that a real thing? Is that a real thing?
That's good.
Oh
Carlos,
my
but
God.
no,
What is Audia? What is Audia token coming out?
I meant FTX, by the way. They have their own token, which obviously tanked the whole crypto market. But anyway,
That's another episode. We'll dive into our
It
thoughts.
trades
on that.
well with the the ALT.
I like the freelancer
Net
finance token though, FFT.
That's so good. That's so good. Okay, so right here, Farmer George says, while no longer owned by Brian Armstrong individually, the shares are still likely under fully his control. Okay, we gotta dig into.
You got to give us more detail, Farmer Joe. He's a big contributor on our Discord, so he got all the details. This guy, he knows his shit.
He's digging. That's why he's the farmer.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. That's the end. 176 people here. Thank you guys so much for being here. This was, I think we had about 165 to 170 consistently. Let us know if you like the pod. I liked it. This is fun. Chris is a great idea. I think this is gonna be a
good idea,
fun-
Chris.
Yeah.
Fun weekly thing.
It gives me a chance to pick on you a little bit.
No, it's gonna be fun for me watching Enphase go down and watching you guys be like, oh my God, remember when I told you about
Listen, I love having my ideas challenged because it forces you to have to really dig into your conviction, right? So
I just want to point out, Chris, I
don't
want
feel
that to
bad that you
happen.
don't own
I
any
want
Enphase.
it to go down. I want to buy more.
Me too. I
Let me-
would like it to go down.
Yes.
Let me tell you guys what scares the shit out of me when it comes to Enphase.
Oh, bye.
Just from
okay,
like,
pod
a
is over,
personal-
everybody.
You're
Good
afraid
night.
of being.
No, no,
You're
no.
afraid of
Real
being
quick,
rich.
real
You're
quick.
afraid of being rich.
It's
You're
no,
afraid.
no, it's not about that. But whenever I see things go astronomically, like super fast, that
Yeah.
high, it makes you question. Like, wait a second, what's going on? Like, what
Amazon,
the fuck is going
Google,
on?
Tesla,
Yeah.
Apple. Yes.
No,
continue.
no, no, no.
But-
Those are
but again-
gradual rises. You're talking about in
but-
3 years, it's 12x.
No, but again, yeah.
Apple
again,
has 4x, 5x in the last 2 years, by the way, and it's
Okay,
not.
Yeah,
no,
but
I'm
they have to
saying
put up
Enphase.
hundreds
I'm
of
saying-
billions in revenue.
you can
No,
look
no,
at
I'm
it
saying
that way,
Enphase.
Yeah.
Enphase.
Yeah, but you can look at it like yes, that happens.
They went
but-
from being
but again,
unprofitable to profitable, by the way, in the last
The-
couple of years.
the stock price is different from the fundamentals of the company. And you have to also understand something.
Yeah.
We are living in a generational time.
Yes.
Right now, money, like crypto didn't exist, what, 15, 20 years ago?
10
You're
years ago.
alive. You are alive when money went digital, right?
Yeah.
For the last 100 years, we've been on fossil fuels. For now, there's actually an alternative that is proving to be better. And you're alive for that. So you're the guy in like 1912 being like, what company's making faster horses? Like, bro,
Yes. Yes.
car is coming, man.
We can also buy these
Buy
rings
Ford.
in 2 days. They get
Bro,
out.
Indian CEO.
Yeah,
just remember,
yeah.
at the end of the day, it's an Indian CEO.
Yeah,
It's
it's
Indian
Indian
CEO.
CEO.
You know what
gets
we
you
should
down,
do? We
bro.
should freeze our portfolios and in 10 years revisit who is living on an island. That's what we should do.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next
Later,
week. We'll
guys.
let you guys know the time. Maybe it's weekday, maybe it's the weekend, and we'll see you then on Finance Junkies.
Take care, guys.
Thanks,
Have a good one.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.